some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to the Some Dare Call It Conspiracy podcast, hosted by Brent Lee and Neil Sanders. After nearly 20 years exploring the world of conspiracy culture, we are taking our guests and listeners on a guided tour of the rabbit hole. Our mission? To discover where the truth lies.
Will, thank you so much for joining us today. I trust that you will not let us down and you woke up Jewishly.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, yes, I did. That's for anyone listening who's like, what a anti-Semitic introduction. I did a sketch recently that is about like the POV. It's a day in the life of a deep state conspiracy. No, I can't even remember my own sketch. A day in the life of a deep state operative. Yeah.
There you go.
And I have Jewish heritage, and actually the BBC contacted me to be like, just checking with that Jewishly line. And I say, yeah. So I'm not practicing Jewish, but I have Jewish heritage. So it's an interesting one where I get some anti-Semitism, which is fun.
Oh, nice.
Which is sort of how I found out I have Jewish heritage was...
Don't necessarily have to be Jewish to get anti-Semitism. Like there's always the old fallback on the old, they're a crypto Jew. This evidence doesn't necessarily prove anything.
Which is ironic as bigots being for equity and inclusion in terms of their hatred. Like that's pretty nice. They do it for everyone.
I gotta say thank you for getting me off the hook straight away. Explaining that.
Imagine if I just pretended you'd come up with that and then was like, I'm leaving. I'd get some hits, to be
Content.
fair. Probably get some hits.
Yeah,
there we go.
Brilliant.
Creating it. But one of the things, Will, is that I think everybody's kind of noticed that the world is kind of going, it's not going entirely correct, is it? Like, I'm pretty sure there's another timeline where Donald Trump's in prison and the Berenstain Bears is spelled correctly, and that woman from Moonraker has actually got braces again.
Oh yeah,
we're not on that timeline.
Mandela died in prison. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But one of the things that gets us through this thing is humor and lampooning those people who are making the world a worse place, and that seems to be what you're pretty keen on.
It's a very good description of where I'm at with it. Yeah, I'm pretty keen on it. It sort of happened by accident. I didn't really mean to become a satirist, and I still don't really know that I am one, because like I do a lot of satirical videos, but I don't really know that much about politics because I didn't learn it at school. And I think it's funny because I went to the same school as Liz Truss, so I think we share our lack of understanding.
Well, she doesn't know. Yeah, exactly. She doesn't really know a lot about politics, did she? And she managed
she did
to fail
pretty well, to be fair. Yeah.
She's not looking so good at the minute. She can't seem to find a hat that fits her. Did you see her in Washington with that ludicrous oversized hat?
We've all been there. We've been prime minister for 44 days, and then you're like, I don't even know the circumference of my head.
Yeah, it's bizarre. She looked.
Do you guys know the circumference of your head off the top of your head?
Not really, no. Like I don't wear any hats. Like I always look like I'm dying if I have a hat on, so I tend to avoid it.
No idea. Just surprisingly small.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 60 centimeters all the way around, just in case anyone's checking.
Well, it's good to
Jamie,
know.
can we get a fact check on that?
But like it was bizarre. Like she turned up looking a bit like a sort of. She looked like when a little girl borrows a parent's clothes and dresses up like a train driver. Like, and Suella Braverman for some reason turned up dressed like Tom Baker. Like, but yeah, I mean, what do you think about all this sort of like toadying to Donald Trump that we saw from people like Truss and?
I think it's unsurprising from someone like Truss. I think the amazing thing about Liz Truss is that she's really trying to remain relevant, but even the batshit stuff she says at the moment, no one seems to care that much.
No,
like,
she said. she spoke at CPAC, but she spoke to essentially empty room, and that might have been because there was a bit of a balls up in the a running order, and I think she was put on when everyone was having lunch. But it might just be because she's Liz Truss.
No, Neil, I'm going to ask you: do you think that was a balls up, or do you think even Jordan Peterson was like, "We can't have her. We must have lunch while she's on.
Go and eat some meat, and only meat, and get myself out of this depression." But yeah. So did you go to school with her? Were you at school when she was at school, or was it just the same school?
Same school.
How old
Imagine.
do you think he is?
Imagine
I don't know.
how much
how old Liz
moisturising
Truss
would I
is.
have had to do to look this well? Or maybe she's actually 33 as well, and she's just,
well, this is it.
Tired. It was round a high school, which is like just a well-performing state school. Like, I think it sounds, when I say I went to school, the same school as an ex-prime minister, people are like, "Oh, you went to Hogwarts, did you?" But it's it's just like it was a really good school, but I think everyone, like, there's no blue plaque. I think everyone's thoroughly embarrassed.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Are they kind of proud of it? Are they like, or do they tend to pretend? Have they changed the name of the school just to avoid any embarrassment?
Yeah. They've changed it to Keir Starmer High or something, just to anything to get away from it.
No, the Karl Marx School of New Thought.
I think it is quite nice, because often, like, I don't know if you guys have this, if you've gone to school with people who are doing really well, but I have gone to someone who will go down in history as one of the worst prime ministers who served for such a short term.
Wow.
If an Edinburgh run doesn't sell very well for me, at least I didn't tank the pound. It's not that bad.
There you go. This is the thing. Like, my dad went to the same school as Harold Shipman. I don't think at the same time.
This might be a personal question, but has your dad ever murdered anyone?
Not that I know of, but
so either not a serial killer or a much
really
better
good
serial killer.
Killer. This is the thing. Like, and I'm going to err on the latter. So, it's just, he was a very accomplished man. What can you say? Like, I think if he wanted to be a serial killer, I think he probably would have been the best.
It's like a school report of a well-performing psychopath.
Yeah, there you go. My friend's dad went to school with John Lennon, and they used to cycle to school together.
That's wild.
Hello, Ian, if you're listening. But yeah, no.
Have you had Ian on just to talk about that one experience? Because that's
it.
Bizarre.
That's the experience. Like, I've kind of done it. I've ruined it. In fact, we did have him booked on to tell that story, and I'm going to have to sadly tell him that, like, I'm sorry, you've been bumped now.
Yeah, and I'm sure the truth of it is entirely inane and dull. Like,
this is it. He was friends with John Lennon when he was I think it was about 10, and they would cycle to school together. That was it. But I don't think he got credit, like, on the White Album or anything like that. Like,
he is the fifth Beatle. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, this is it. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is actually about him. Like, do you know what? Right, I read something recently that Paul McCartney had finally come out and said, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, it was actually about drugs. And it's like, no one believed the story about his kid drawing a picture. Like, come on, like, have a word. Like, thanks, Paul. Cheers. Of all the things you could have told us about the Beatles, that song was about drugs, Oh, thanks. Brilliant.
What
Marvelous.
a revelation.
Yeah, thanks.
It's like Anthony Kiedis coming out being like, Californication is actually about prostitution. And everyone's like, we know.
No
we have
way.
Yeah.
So what is it that sort of drove you to become a satirist? Or, like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back?
I think it was a couple of straws, like 3 or 4 straws dropped on this poor camel at the same time. One was the pandemic. One was just in the acting world and the comedy world, having to make your own work and do stuff. And making your own work in the pandemic meant doing stuff online. And I think I'd always been slightly like dreams of being political, aspirations, but no. I don't have the vocabulary. This is what I mean. I had aspirations, but no vocabulary to be political. But I did buy a T-shirt when I was like 16 that said "Unfuck the World." So
nice.
That was pretty cool. But I didn't know how that was. It didn't have like how to do that underneath it, or what about the world was particularly fucked. So I don't know.
Well,
and I think the thing was, I think it was Partygate. Really, it was seeing the response to lockdown and this really difficult time, and the sort of barefacedness of the all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others kind of thing. I was just like, this doesn't seem fair. And I'd done a lot of parodies with my sketch group, and basically I think I started doing like little interviews where I cut little interviews up, and I started making raps about basically because Sue Gray it rhymed with Dr. Dre, so I was like, well, yeah, there you go.
And apparently they both threw D Barnes down a flight of stairs at one point as well. So there's that similarity.
Yeah.
You know, like, but yeah, we were going to talk about the rap. That's the Sue Gray rap was fantastic stuff. Like,
thanks. Yeah, it's actually looking back at I still like. It's sort of run its life, because performing it live now, you have to do a lot of build up to be like, does everybody remember this specific time? So it's
do you remember who Sue Gray is?
Yeah. And for a while, she was obviously Kid's chief of staff, but even then, it was still felt out of date. But it's interesting doing stuff online, because often, like, I do a lot of live stuff, but when you've put it online, going back and looking at some of the way I did the music videos at the start in like 2020, I find it cringe to watch myself. So I appreciate you having to watch me sincerely rap and not cut enough. You got to cut every couple of seconds to make sure you don't get the ick. So I appreciate you still having me on after watching it, because it's good rap, great. But the visuals. Ugh.
Oh, no, it's really good. I'd advise everyone to go and to look at that. Are you a hip hop fan?
I am, yeah, but I think this is the most white and middle class thing I could say. The way I properly got into hip hop was by watching an English teacher do a rap battle.
Really?
Yeah. It was Mark Grist. I mean,
I was just going to ask, was it Mark Grist? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Don't flop. Oh yeah, we know Tony D. Like Tony D's been on the show. Yeah, we like.
Oh my god, he's amazing.
Friend. Oh, he's astonishing. Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah. So I always liked rap. Like we used to. There were a couple of kids at our school who did like. There were the LS7 battlers. So my postcode was LS8. The LS7 battlers was a big thing in Leeds, which you can still find on YouTube. It's like, guess what happens when man tries step? The battle begins, so you hit him with a left. It was all incredible stuff. So it was like, I grew up enjoying it and really liking it. But then I properly got into it when I started watching Don't Flop. And I just used to watch all of their rap battles. And there was a part of me that was like, I thought that would be my way into comedy. So I used to write loads of like rap battle verses and have just never used them. So then when Partygate happened, I was like, oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Could finally channel this
bag.
Pent up
Sue Gray
120 BPM.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I actually wrote that like 20 years previous when she was just a humble civil servant. I was like, one day.
How close did you get to sort of applying for Don't Flop? Or?
Not close at all. It was very like, I'd watch it, and I used to know a load of like Shuffle T and Marlowe's stuff off by heart, and like
just the compliments battle.
Yeah. And I used to. I think the first one I properly was like, whoa, was the Shotty Horror Unanimous like title match.
Huh.
And yeah. Oh, I just absolutely loved it. I just really like words and rhymes. They're great, aren't they?
The thing that was good about Don't Flop was it had a degree of there was a strong streak of comedy through it as well.
Yeah.
URL is just like is so incredibly macho to the point of being a little bit homoerotic. Like, but
also intensely homophobic at the same time.
Yeah.
Which almost then circles back to homoeroticism again. It's
an Ouroboros of like
it's a big old bumhole of homophobia and homoeroticism.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. But so we're big fans of hip hop. So that's what we like on this show is hip hop, comedy, and a bit of politics and conspiracy theories. And
perfect.
So what sort of conspiracy theories do you like? Do you are you into like UFOs or Loch Ness Monster?
I would love the Loch Ness Monster to be real. I think I exist. I sort of feel the same way about a lot of conspiracy theories as I feel about ghosts. Like, I feel like science tells us neither are true, but then I really want to see one. And I really want them to be real, and I also don't. Like, there's in our house at the moment, my partner. Did you ever read the Artemis Fowl books?
I'm familiar with him.
So it was about this super genius kid who realized there were fairies living under the earth, and it's all based on like Irish mythology of the fairies.
Oh, okay.
So the fairies used to like live on the earth, and they got forced underground. And his name's Owen. I think it's Owen Coifer, but me pronouncing an Irish name problematic. There's too many vowels and also too many consonants. But he describes in it that when you know that thing where you see something out the corner of your eye and you glance over and it's gone, that's a fairy, because they have very good camouflaging technology. And I see fairies all the time in the house of like a little flash, which is probably just like someone in my eye or like a trick of the light, but also it's definitely a fairy from another world.
That's just reminded me of this guy who I won't name. It was fairly prominent in UK conspiracy circles that had this idea that there were these black energy octopuses from outer space, and every time that you thought you saw something out the corner of your eye, it was one of those.
So maybe it's okay. So now that's going to freak me out whenever I see one.
Well, he did get. I mean, he did get let go from his profession, because he told his employers that these outer space energy octopuses were attacking the infrastructure of the company, and they really needed to do something. And like, apparently, like as part of the cover up, he was let go from the company.
Did he work in an aquarium?
I don't. Well, yeah,
yeah. So these octopuses are attacking. Like, mate, they just live here. That's the octopus enclosure.
That'd be less strange, but no, it was fascinating guy.
Yeah, what a strange one. I don't think there's any conspiracy theories that I really believe in, because I think the conspiracy theories that are like, the real world is so much more messed up than conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of 9/11 being an inside job. I remember when I was at uni, I watched one video that said it was an inside job, and I was like, holy shit, this definitely was an inside job. And then watched the debunking video afterwards and was like, oh, that was all horseshit. Right, sorry. But then the use of that to then invade a country, the use of that event to invade a country and perform an illegal war, that's the thing we should be focusing on. And that's the fucked up thing, that's the conspiracy theory. But that's just a thing that happened that we all know happened. And they were like, there are weapons of mass destruction. And I remember as a 13-year-old or whatever I was being like, I don't think there are.
No.
So I think they're often like, they're a bit of crack, but then I don't think they are a bit of crack. When people are like, ha ha ha, flat earth, I'm like, flat earth is like the gateway drug to everything else as well.
Flat earth is, like we've had people that we knew in the industry or in the community and stuff like that, who we previously thought were really, really quite, not stupid. I'll give you an example. Somebody that I used to chat with and stuff like that, they said that I didn't really buy into this flat earth thing. I thought it was a psyop, because it can't just be people being like stupid, can it? It must be someone manipulating someone.
Yeah.
But anyway, he found the biggest, flattest field that he could. He went and lay down in the center for as long as he could. He didn't feel the earth move.
Well, to be fair, I didn't know he'd done that. So,
well, this is the thing. It did make me think about it, and then I thought, no, that's stupid, isn't it? Like, but
if he did that with one other person, then he could say it was a peer-reviewed study, and then that's like,
yeah. Oh, then it gets in the New York Times, doesn't it? Because you've got 2 points of reference. So that's
exactly, yeah. Write some stuff in your shoes, and you got a couple of footnotes in there. Look, this is good stuff.
Well, the other guy, right? Okay, whose son is actually a very good battle rapper, who's appeared on Don't Flop. He went on a Moldovan television show. Was it Moldovan? I think it was something mental like that. And he explained his thesis about like why the Earth is flat. And the thing that he couldn't get his head over was, if you've got a gyroscope on, say, a helicopter or whatever, if you went from, say, the North Pole all the way round and under to the South Pole, why wouldn't the gyroscope flip over? And somehow that proves that the Earth is flat.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's like, you do understand how a gyroscope works. It's drawn to the center of the
It
planet.
doesn't. No,
Like,
it doesn't.
no, but this is the thing.
Point.
He clearly, no, he evidently doesn't understand what it is. But like, that's one of those things where it's like I had this stupid thing where it's like, when I was younger, I was like, I had to convince a load of people in one of these classes that time was going faster. And the reason that time was going faster is because if you think of the planet like a racetrack, it takes longer to get around the sort of outer ring. Okay. And in the past, we know this from looking at like suits and armor and stuff like that, people were shorter. So it stands to reason that being taller, you have to go faster to go the same distance. Hence, time is speeding up.
I mean, I can't debunk that. I don't have
Exactly.
the vocabulary
This is the
to
thing. Like, you
to
know,
do that.
like this is the thing. Like, you know, you've just got to think outside the box, even if it's, you know, stupid and wrong.
I also
Like,
really appreciated that you said that person couldn't get their head over instead of getting their head around it, because they wouldn't have respected getting the concept of getting your head around something. They would have gone over.
Well, it certainly wouldn't have gone under because it's just because then the turtles would have eaten him.
I do think it is something that I don't really relish that much. I know people do, like the making fun of people who fall for this shit, basically, because it's so intoxicating. And I so understand, like, I watched that one 9/11 video and I was fully like, especially because I don't have huge trust in government institutions and things.
No, this is the thing, isn't it? Like, we constantly try and highlight this, although, you know, we are sarky fuckers.
Oh, it's nice to be. Don't get me wrong. I love a bit of sark.
Like, you know, most of the people that are into conspiracy theories, like, are trying to do it because they're trying to like make the world a better place. They might be sort of like ill-advised or whatever, and they might be sort of being manipulated by people. But you know, they're interested in the world. They're trying to uncover evil and they're trying to counteract it. Basically, the thing is, it's interesting, as you say, where conspiracy theories start and what point they start to get dangerous, and like. And you know, at what point did it become real? Because it's interesting you're saying about the distrust of authority. Say something like the Rampart scandal in America or something. You know, widespread corruption in the Los Angeles Police Department, and you know, essentially cover up of crimes in some cases, as much as armed robbery and things like that. Like you can understand why. I mean, conspiracies happen because this conspiracy by definition is more than one person plotting something, but usually they're more to do with sort of like politics or making money, to be quite honest. Like, but those things are kind of boring and complicated, but satanic ritual is kind of sexy. I mean, it has to be, like, you know, that's what part of how you do it well. But
it's a much more, it's a cooler story, and you also have the benefit as a conspiracy theorist to work backwards from the ending and make everything make sense.
Yeah,
so you don't have to write up to something. You can be like, right, what makes, and it's easy to find correlations there. And
that's something that we found, in fact, even with ourselves, going back and looking back at, like, you know, things that we believed or took to be sort of credible in the past, is that's what you do. You start with a set of assumptions, like, we know this and we know this and we know this. And if you're looking for something rather than following the evidence to see where it goes, you'll find something that gives you the impression that thing is real. Even if it's, and in many ways, the sort of like, well, I couldn't find this, but I found this one bit, this one tiny thing that like, that's often more
or it's a bit,
but that's often more powerful in the sort of conspiracy world, even though it's not to everybody else, because it does two things. It shows that there's a chink of evidence, but the fact that there's not a lot shows that there's a cover up. And so you get into all of these. They
accidentally left this little bit out. I think there's a big issue I have with it, because it uses the language of science and asking questions, but it doesn't do it from a scientific perspective. And now I'm bad at science. Like, my parents are both medical. My dad's a doctor, mum's a nurse. And I was just creative because I couldn't deal with definite answers. I love a story way more. So much easier to make a story than be like, I don't know what covalent bonds are. Sorry.
No,
my dad is brilliant. They're both brilliant, but my dad specifically, I remember whenever he's presented with a new bit of information, he really is very good at throwing away his biases. And I remember him, like, I don't know many dads who in like the early 2000s when we were teenagers was like, so at dinner, he was like, so I've heard sexuality is a spectrum. What does that mean? And would just ask his kids and speak to young people about it. And my sisters and I were like, yeah, you know, like, I think I'm straight, but, you know, I've like often looked at other people and like, whoa, it doesn't really matter. Everyone's sort of somewhere on it. He was like, oh, interesting. And so I think it was always valued growing up of being curious and being like, let's work stuff out from a place of like, I could be right. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things as well. It's like it's good to have like questions, but it's one of these things where it's like it's perfectly okay to not know the answers and stuff like that. But
yeah,
like,
big time.
Particularly with social media, like it's really got this sort of thing where everybody's got to be in the know, and people will just flat out lie and say, "Oh, well, I know this and this." And it's like you don't. You've got no clue about anything. Like,
yeah.
And why would you? Like, but for some reason at the minute, society's like, well, you should, because you've got to have an argument to own the libs or whoever.
Well, there's a friend of mine called Josh Berry, who's a comedian, and he was saying that you can't monetize nuance, which I think is a really good way of putting it, because you can't sell a podcast or sell the Diary of a CEO is just like, eat vegetables, get the cancer treatment, probably take some supplements. It just doesn't have the same bite as like, if you don't poo for 6 weeks, you won't get cancer. Stephen Bartlett's never said that, I should say. Holding you. That's going to be my new wellness thing. It's just holding your poo for as long as you can. It's the opposite of a coffee enema.
It's a new character you're in development.
Yeah. He's called the constipated centrist. I'm holding in everything and I don't know what to do. I think Keir's doing a good job, but I don't specifically know what policies I agree with.
Have you heard the latest in conspiracy world anti-cancer high technology? Or it's not really high technology, but it's like there's two things that at the minute they're kind of saying are cure-alls for all sorts of things.
Okay.
But like
I don't think I've heard this.
One is smoking, or just nicotine in general. Nicotine. Is like it's a nootropic. It's like helps you concentrate. It's absolutely harmless. It's good to put in your mouth and chew. It's good to smoke. It's good to have cigars. And obviously these things are hyper masculine as well. And also there's people saying that it's a cancer cure, a COVID cure, all sorts of things.
Oh man! And it's because there was some data of like smokers being less likely to get it or something at some point. Was there?
There was a tiny thing that people misinterpreted with COVID that said that at the beginning it kind of looked like smokers were in some way protected, but very, very quickly it turned out that the opposite was true.
Yeah.
And that smokers were dying in far greater rates and having far greater sort of bad reactions.
They were just going out for smoke breaks during the initial infection period, and that was the reason.
I think there was a twat called Brian Ardis, who's a chiropractor that is still trying to sell the nicotine.
Imagine, just imagine. Oh, well, my chiropractor told me to smoke. What an amazing sentence.
That's not even the stupidest shit that this guy came out with. Like, his theory of what was actually causing COVID was that someone had put a load of snake venom in the drinking water of America. Yeah. It's as daft as it sounds. Like it's
oh man.
It's
because and it just is. Sorry, no, you were on. Keep going.
No, that was it. That was it. Oh, sorry. And the other one, is and this is, I think, probably worse than encouraging people to get to smoke. It's and this is very left field. This measles. In fact, measles. That's the reason that they want you to get vaccinated, so you don't get measles, because they know that measles fights cancers. And obviously, if people got measles and therefore cancer didn't exist, then that big pharma would be fucked. And we all remember, obviously, like, a couple of 100 years ago when measles was really, really prevalent, there was no such thing as cancer, was there? Like, no, like, but yeah, that's.
I think Andrew Wakefield has a lot to answer for.
Oh, Andrew Wakefield is a tosser. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
have you seen the H-Bomber guy video essay on vaccines and autism?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's astonishing stuff. And the Brian Deere book is very, very good as well. Like, Wakefield was an absolute monster. It's astonishing. Do you know what gets me about
we're still
Wakefield?
talking about the measles thing and autism and the vaccines. Like, he is like the father of this stuff, and it's spread ironically like unvaccinated measles. It's terrible.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people don't know what his theory was. That's what gets me, was that when I spoke to people that were like supportive of Wakefield, not a single one of them understood what his theory actually was. Like, most people don't understand what his theory is. His theory was that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine left dormant measles particles in the stomach, and it would also cause a thing called leaky gut, which doesn't exist. But this leaky gut would basically mean that these sorts of things would get into the bloodstream, and then when the children ate bread, this bread reacted with this, turned into morphine, and this caused encephalitis in their heads, which then sent them autistic. That's his fucking theory. I swear to God, that's his theory. And I've said this before. It's like, well, that raises the question: exactly how much bread would you need to eat to get high?
It's a really good question.
Like, it's absolutely stupid. I think his initial study was on 12 kids, 2 of which had got autism before they were vaccinated, and 1 of whom wasn't autistic.
I think it was more than that weren't autistic.
Possibly, possibly.
It's a renowned study. It's been found that there was child abuse committed during the study.
He was doing unnecessary colonoscopies on children.
And this is the thing that sort of is upsetting, is like the amount the media platform him, and it's like the amount the media platform Farage at the moment, despite the fact that the Green Party have the same amount of MPs.
We've got to have some opposite representation. It's like, no, you don't. You have a duty to report the facts.
Yeah, and if you're gonna go down the opposite representation line, then why aren't the Green Party being interviewed? And it's because it won't sell a paper, because you can't monetize nuance.
This is exactly the thing. It's that thing where it's like, we'll have some twat on the television like Tommy Robinson or thing, because it will cause outrage. And we've got 2 audiences. One that like it, well, 3 audiences really. One that like it, one that turn into hate watch, and then a third that just turn into watch the spectacle.
And a fourth who tune in to make satire out of it. That's the sad reality. Yeah.
But like, this normalizes it, and before you know it, basically, like, Nigel Farage is the most most repeated guest on Question Time, and it's like, why? He's not relevant. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who said, he was like, you don't understand that Farage is very relevant. It's like, he's not relevant. It looks like he's relevant, like, because he's always on the fucking telly, right? Okay, but he's not. It doesn't even translate into, outside of the echo chambers of social media. It doesn't translate to the real world.
But there are people who are like, I like Farage. You're like, well, what do you like about him? And it's like, oh, well, he's tough on immigration. But it's all very surface level stuff. It's like being like, I follow Andrew Wakefield. Well, what was his MMR study into? And did you know that he had patents in other companies for individual measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines? No, you didn't care, because you didn't look into it, because it solved the problem, and it was easy to be like, this is why life is hard, and this easy solution makes me feel less afraid. I don't know.
What's your opinion of people like Alex Jones?
He's great. Huge fan of Alex Jones. Love him. Yeah. He's big. We've got an AJ tattoo. He's the one who said that the Sandy Hook massacre was faked.
Among other things,
And the frogs were... The war was turning frogs gay. But there was part of that was like, frogs are hermaphroditic or something.
There's a chap that dresses up like a genie that pretends to be a scientist, and he did these experiments, and it showed that the atrazine caused these frogs to change sex, except these particular types of frogs are known to, as you say, be hermaphroditic in real life, and no one in the entire planet has been able to replicate these experiments.
Well, it sounds like a really good...
This is the thing, like, but again, it's become a little bit of a truism. Like, I think Joe Rogan even was saying Alex Jones was right about this. So he absolutely was not.
Whoa, Joe Rogan saying someone was right about something incorrectly. What on earth? What's happened? I used to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I also was a fan of Russell Brand when he did the Trues. I used to, because the Trues, I remember it was the first sort of, and when he was like campaigning for I've forgotten the name of the estate in London that was going to get demolished or something.
Yeah, he was very into sort of left-wing stuff.
And like, I really liked him. And then he was telling everyone not to vote. And I remember telling my then girlfriend, "Oh, I love this. This is cool. Look at what Russell Brand's doing." And she was like, "This is so irresponsible, man." And I was like, "Is it? What?" And then the way I remember it is the day after voting registration closed, he said, "Actually, you should probably vote Labour in this election."
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, huh? And this was before I worked in the comedy world and heard all the true stories that have since come out. And but I think it's so easy to get sucked into these things. And it's really weird that I don't remember if there was even a question asked, but I just got distracted by remembering that I used to be into Russell Brand.
Well, just then Joe Rogan was.
Oh yeah, he used to
promoting Alex's theories and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
what happened to Joe Rogan again?
I think, like, do you think it just becomes a bit of a game once you're that successful and rich that it's all symbolic and interesting, and you are just questioning things and seeing what waves you can make? Is that what's happening?
I don't know. If you're cynical, I'd suggest that basically once you get $100 million, like suddenly you become quite sort of like in tune with the idea that rich white people should probably be able to keep all of their money.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, there's also the sunken cost fallacy is in play here. Like, he's invested so much into this, and he's received so much as a reward for pushing this stuff.
Also, I think what happened with Rogan was that a couple of things. One, he used to be very good and used to be very interesting, and so people would tell him he was very good. And then he surrounded himself with increasingly rich and increasingly right-wing people that told him stupid shit. But by that time, he's convinced that he knows what he's doing and is a good interviewer, and it's crazy.
I think it's because he like straddles this lane of being a comedian who was very countercultural back in the day, also being like a UFC fighter, like being this ultra masculine sort of guy who's also like got this macho sort of approach to stand up of like, I fucking kill, bro. It appeals to like this. It's easy and I have this as a man who is very much in touch with his feminine side and like deals with like latent masculinity. Like, what am I doing? Why do I care about this? But you are like, God, I should be muscly, wealthy, and funny. And I don't know when you start.
Joe Rogan's only two of those.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I think it's undeniable that he was funny. Like he used to be. Yeah. He knows how to play his crowd and make jokes, and he uses that power for bad sometimes, doesn't he?
Mm. As a comedian yourself, what do you think of his thoughts of the 250 comedy assassins?
What's that?
He thinks that basically comedians are essentially the only real and true sort of artists in the world, and they have an important role they could change the world by telling the truth. But at any one time, there's only about 250 of these elite people on the world. He's one of them. And Joey Diaz is one of them. And, all these friends are one of them, including Bert Kreischer, for Christ's sake.
I think that what he's done there is misattributed the very small amount of people who are that successful and wealthy from comedy being like, well, I guess they're the best ones. That's not true. Like, there's so much luck based on it. I think that's the funniest and most embarrassing thing to think about, a fucking man standing on stage telling some dick jokes. Go fuck yourself, man. It's not impressive. It's not big. You're not George Carlin. Like, You're not speaking truth to power anymore. You're a jester who's become the king and is now just being like, look, I may dance. What a stupid thing to say. I hate this. Like, I think there's a really important place for comedy. I think it can be so cathartic. I think it's such an amazing tool and it can change people's lives. But the idea that you're doing anything other than fucking telling some jokes and making people feel something, you're not a better artist than fucking John Lennon, and you didn't even cycle to school with Ian. So what's the point in you? I don't know. I get really annoyed about this like inflated sense, and maybe it's me being cynical as well, because I think art is beautiful and important, and however you care about it is amazing. But turning it into this like we're the only free thinkers is such an elitist way of looking at things. The idea that someone who works at Tesco can't think freely or influence people and make their like it's just dumb. It really annoys me.
Yes. Did you see Rogan's most recent special?
No, I missed it. Had tickets, but missed it. And of course I didn't see it.
He does a lot of stuff about COVID and suggesting that one of his main jokes is they lied to us so much about COVID. I now think that the moon landing is fake again. And it's like, come on. Like he's very much pandering to it. He seems to have gone down that.
But that's a funny joke, because it's like I've bought into this conspiracy theory, so I'm believing in other ones. Like it's funny. The thing I like about that one is because I can laugh at it, but for a different reason that someone who believes in it would laugh at it.
That's the thing. But that's what a lot of people have pointed out. It's like the joke's on you there, but that's not how he's projecting it. He's projecting it as that he's really smart, and it's like, oh dear.
But and it's funny because like I just don't think COVID was a psyop and that they forced us all to stay inside. But I do think we should talk about the fact that loads of people became incredibly rich because of it. I think that's the important thing to talk about. And it's like, imagine if you were using that platform to talk about. I'd just love to know what's going on in their brains. I think they just think they're really important and grown up, and they need to get in touch with their inner child, guys.
Potentially. This is the thing. It's just like, do people miss the in inverted commas real stuff because it's boring or complicated, and they want to go for the more sort of sexy stuff, I suppose. Like, what's your opinion of the recent Trump administration? Like, if we're talking about conspiracies and stuff like that, you've got RFK, who doesn't believe that the vaccines are safe and effective, heading up the Health and Human Services Department. How do you think that's going to go?
I think it's like Liz Truss. It's amazing how far you can get with such little knowledge. And I think it's funny that like the Venn diagram of that I cross over with RFK, I think he's trying to get rid of like chemicals and additives that are deemed as safe. And like, I think America especially has such a fucked up relationship with the way they treat food and the ultra processed food. And I think that's so bad. But I also think you can't deny the science of vaccines. And could we please have a conversation first about how many fucking side effects there are for the contraceptive pill for women? The chance of getting a blood clot and dying is way higher from a pill that women do not need to take. But because men can't put on a fucking condom, then it's like that's a fine risk. We're okay with that because it's women's bodies. It just feels like we're so close to getting it right of being like, hey, let's revamp the FDA, but also go get measles to cure your cancer. Feels like a bad balance. And I have hope that I don't think that stuff would hold weight in the UK, but I don't know. I don't know if it's getting more prevalent or people are just like, come on, man.
It's difficult to say because, like, when you do see it, like, this is massive anti-vax stuff during COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
And, but when you tend to see it concentrated in areas where they're collecting, like, social media and stuff like that. What did you when you did, working in the industry and whatnot? Did you see people in comedy and entertainment becoming anti-vax? Did you see them sort of taking political lines and stuff like that?
I tend to exist in a very, very left-wing bubble of. I'm a part of the liberal establishment that are controlling everything. So we all sort of agreed. Yeah, exactly. So there weren't many people that I encountered who were. There were a couple of people who were like basically using everyone else as canaries and letting us all do it. But then also like I sort of had sympathy at the time. We were all scared and everyone was like, I don't know what to do. So I have a lot of sympathy with people who were scared about it. Because basically my dad's a doctor and does loads of clinical trials. I rang my dad and was like, yo, what do you think? And he was like, it's great. I get it in me immediately. So I did not have to think about it because I was like, my dad has done clinical trials that has revolutionized radiotherapy in cancers for his whole career. But if you don't have that and a friend of yours gets vaccinated and something happens to them afterwards because there are side effects. That's scary. So there were people who were like skeptical, but like, and at the time it was difficult. But for the most part, a couple of times people would be like, "Oh, I remember getting in a taxi and the driver being like, "What's two big strong boys like you doing wearing masks?" To me and my friend, and we were like,
that might have been a pickup line, if we're brutally honest. Like,
"Oh man, I missed out." Maybe I accidentally got into one of those sex taxis. You know,
sex taxis, yeah.
What was it? Bang? No, not Bang Bus. Was it?
Oh, that's quite old. That
Fuck cab. What's it called? Shag taxi. There's got to be a name. How can I not riff the name?
That reminded me, like Russell Brand for some reason was praising one of those. What was her name? Lily James or something? Like, what about this new phenomenon of these couple of women that are going?
Oh,
around
Lily Phillip.
That's her. Yeah. And the other one's Bonnie
Was
Blue
he
or
praising
something.
her?
Yeah, he had her on. He's recently become Christian. I don't know whether you've been aware of that.
I've been doing a bit for a while about how he got baptized in the River Thames by Bear Grylls.
Oh God, yeah. Like, apparently it's vital. It's written into the. A lot of people don't realise that their baptisms weren't official because Bear Grylls wasn't there, and it's just a tragedy, isn't it? Like,
yeah, Ray Mears was at mine, which it made it not real. I'm like,
so close.
Yeah. I'm like, he made me a Buddhist or something. I don't know what happened.
Oh no,
it's
man.
Confusing.
But yeah, like, so what did you? How did you ever sort of interact with Russell Brand, or was you knew people that did?
No, I knew because I was much younger, and also I sort of entered the comedy world through a weird route. So I was like an actor and comedian, then a sketch comedian, and like I'm not really big on the scene. I don't really know many people. I knew lots of people who knew him, and he was just on a list that most female comedians have of people you avoid,
creepy
and stay away
people.
from.
Yeah,
and it was one of those things that was just like, yeah, he's an abuser. Stay away from that guy. But no, I'd never would have crossed paths with him.
I think people like him are so successful, like, because, like, it's a normal people. Like, you look at him or Andrew Tate or whatever, and you just go like, this is transparently like grifting.
I think they're charismatic. They have accumulated wealth, and there is, I think, objectively some level of attraction there. Like, whether or not you find them attractive, they are like conventionally attractive people, good bodies, whatever. I don't know, but I think there's something about the ambition or the attainment. You want to be like them. I don't know what it is. I think it's probably the charisma of an abuser, right? Like of people who are able to manipulate and be charming, but yeah, I don't know because it hasn't encaptured me. I think with Russell Brand, I thought he was very funny, very quick. He could articulate himself. He was verbose, and he was saying things that, and I will stress, this was when I was
a long time ago,
when he was doing more left-wing things like trying to protect people's right to council houses.
Uh-huh.
I think to me it was like he felt like a counterculture person who was within the establishment being like, hey, this is fucked up. It's the same reason that I joined the Labour Party because of Jeremy Corbyn when he was the leader, because I was like, oh, this guy seems to be a part of this but is also trying to speak out against it. Cool. So I think it's that sort of thing. But then how they then go off the deep end. Oh, well, I guess he was already off the deep end, but he was finding a way of maintaining an audience. And it turns out the way you do that is get a load of people who will question anything anyone says against you and then convert to Christianity. So Jesus has absolved you of your sins and Bear Grylls has forgiven you. So you're fine.
Yeah. It's grotty though, isn't it? It's just so grotty. Like it's
as grotty as the Thames is. Yeah.
I'd say they're very much like cult leaders.
That's it, Brent. Yeah. Yeah. It's very cult leadery. And it's like, you want to be part of something. Like the fact I watched The Trues, I was like, yeah, I'm doing something different. And that's sort of just for me. And it's that like parasocial relationship thing of listening to a podcast and being like, we're friends. And then you meet them in real life and you're like, oh God, I don't know how to behave now.
Your video, which we briefly discussed, it goes through a whole series. It's got so many references in there. How did you sort of get all the touch points for that together?
So this is the deep state operative one
Yeah,
that I did. So I did this for BBC Radio 4 for a channel for a show called POV, where basically the producer Ed Morrish, who is a comedy genius and is like the reason that I work at all, I think. He basically got a bunch of people online to do what they do, but on the radio. And so we threw a load of things back and forth, and his idea was like, how about a sort of get ready with me or something like that in this. It was his pitch, basically. So I sort of was like, everyone, I'd recently got a load of anti-Semitism for saying that basically someone had said that in the acting world, they had to quit acting because all of the casting calls said Caucasians need not apply, which is, I've been an actor for 10, 11 years. That has never happened. That has never happened.
Maybe for Othello.
Even then, they'll just say we're casting this sort of a person. The word Caucasian has never been in a casting breakdown. Unless it was for the Caucasian chalk circle, that word has not existed. Anyway, I tweeted saying this has never happened, and got a load of people being like, just being like, you're Jew. Oh my God, you're Jew. The cabal of Jews who control the world clearly have paid for your career. And I was like, well, if they have, how come they've only got me 2 jobs in fucking unknown TV shows? So I'm going to have to call them up and be like, listen, lads, use your control a bit better.
Poldark was good.
Yeah, but I was the foreman of the jury in that. I got murdered in Endeavour, and you can only get murdered in a TV show once, Neil, you know?
That is true, actually.
Yeah, unless you come back as a ghost or an octopus from a different dimension.
They've gone on EastEnders a few times, haven't they?
That's true. Yeah.
But so that was the first point was like, oh well, the joke is that they're all. It was sort of listening to Liz Truss as well, of what she talks about the blob and the deep state. I was like, well, what do people think I do? And there was a load of stuff that was cut, and there's the video, but there's more stuff in the radio one as well. There was all like, so wake up and have a phytoestrogen-rich coffee. It was basically just going through a day in the life and then being like, well, what would happen at each point? First, I wake up very Jewishly was the first line I think I wrote.
That's fantastic. I do need to ask something though. What on earth is Lucy and Yak dungarees?
Lucy and Yak is this like, I think a relatively small independent company from Brighton, I think, that made these really cool, very nice dungarees and jumpsuits and stuff. And my wife bought them very early on. She got like advertised on Instagram, bought one of them. And then by like 2024, if you work in the arts or work in a theatre or a comedy club, if you don't see someone wearing Lucy and Yak that day, that's weird. That is weird.
Okay.
They do really nice, like, really nice dungarees, jumpsuits, all this kind of thing. And I was just trying to think of what's the most like left-wing sort of tofu-eating pathetic thing that I could wear, and a sort of a beta male wearing some dungarees from a lovely shop in Brighton. I was like, that's spot on. But I don't actually have any dungarees. I bought some and they didn't fit, so I sent them back. So I had to get my wife's jumpsuit, and then I put this is so boring, but I put my jacket over the label to film that shot. So I'm not actually wearing Lucy and Yak in the whole video, so apologies to Lucy and Yak for that.
Oh, nice. And Matt Letizia catches some flack.
Yeah, he does. It does, because he at one point said that the government control the weather.
Yeah.
Because we can do little cloud things. We can change clouds. Cool. But he'd said, I think I found him through Joey Barton, who through a very weird turn of events, he started following me on Twitter at one point.
Jesus. At least he's following on Twitter. He's not following you down a dark alleyway.
Well, I'm not a woman, so I'd be all right.
Well, yeah, so you'd be fine.
But I'd done a thing when Rishi Sunak did that great GB News People's Forum. That was a real shit show. I did the guy who directed that, and I re-released it, and Joey Barton retweeted it with a laughy face. And I was at the pub with some friends. I just opened my Twitter and I just went, "Oh no!" It was the same week that James Cleverly followed me on Twitter, and I was like, "Have I
Jesus
started doing
Christ.
right-wing comedy? What's happened? What's happened?
What's your weirdest one? My weirdest one is Ian Miles Chong.
What on earth?"
Did my Chong follow you?
Yeah, no. When I did the 9/11 post about it not being an inside job, he started following me and liked that post. So he must not be a 9/11 truther. But I was like, what the
Interesting.
hell?
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
who's
really
your weirdest one?
I think Cleverly was the weirdest because he followed me when he was in office, and I was like, "What on earth?" Like, he clearly has. I don't remember what it was that he followed me for. I can't remember what it was that he followed me for. I must go back and look, but it was so weird. That was the weirdest one.
I think Joey Barton might be trying to cosplay Sean Penn. And that's why he looks. Yeah, I think that's why he's got his hair like it is, and I think that's why he's acting like it is. Either that or he's just an incredibly unpleasant man. So who can say? It's one or the other, isn't it? Yeah, possibly. But
Yeah.
So
No,
did
so
you
Matt
ever-
Letizia he'd said that in the lockdown the government made the weather really nice.
yeah,
I was
just
like,
teasers.
well, yeah, and I was like, that. I really wanted to ask him, but I don't. He doesn't follow me. I was like, but surely they would have made it horrible to keep us inside.
Mm.
I didn't quite follow the logic of like they made it good so we had places to go.
But there is a different reason why the weather was a bit nicer. Well, because there was no chemtrails. There was no contrails.
No.
There was no
Here we
air
go.
traffic.
Woke nonsense again.
But yeah, totally. Did you ever come across David Icke in your travels and research and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have done, and he's one of those people I try not to like look at all because I think you lose. I think he does suck brain cells out of people just by like he's like a little brain cell magnet, but he doesn't gain any more. Yeah, but I've not really interacted with him or like I've not done anything on him. Why'd you ask?
Well, just because he's prominent, and he's like, what's interesting is a lot of the stuff that came out from people like Jones and David Icke, it's fed into low-level people like Russell Brand and stuff like that. But it's also it's affecting politics. Like, you know, you've got Celia Braverman and stuff talking about like intimating the Great Replacement theory and things like this, and Donald Trump. I mean, Christ, there's so much. What's interesting is that there's very possibly a real sort of conspiracy that's going off with sort of Russian influence over Donald Trump. Like, people don't want to touch that because bizarrely within the conspiracy world, aside from David Icke, because he's just going to be contrary to everybody, they like Putin and they like Trump.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Because there's the theory that he like Putin has some sort of compromise on Trump, but I genuinely don't think there's anything he could have that would damage Trump. I can't think of a single thing that wouldn't be passed off as a deep fake, not true, fake news. Like I don't think there's any stopping him, man.
People don't believe it, do they? Anyway, you know, he's essentially been found to have raped at least one woman, and people just don't care. Like, they either don't care or
they don't believe it, or
do you know the irony?
Yeah.
One of the people that was mostly sort of like being really, really like horrid about Jeannie Carroll on Twitter, bitch is lying, blah, 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 was Janita Broadwick, who accused Bill Clinton of raping her and then recanted it and then changed her mind and then changed her mind again and then changed her mind again. And she's like a sort of figure within the right wing at the minute. It's like,
oh God,
Jesus. It's very grotty. Like, but yeah. So how do you see the future for politics in the UK and America?
I don't know, man. I think that is something that I find it very hard to predict or know because I'm not good with patterns or trends. I my sort of layman's terms guesswork would be that I don't think that Labour are currently putting enough of an alternative up to people who are sick of the system that exists. And it makes you like I listened to the Politics Joe podcast a lot, obviously. And they're saying that, you know, they went to the Reform rally, met a lot of people who used to vote Corbyn who now are voting Farage.
What?
Yeah. Have you not heard this? There's a big group of there's a significant proportion of the people they spoke to, significant enough to make it interesting, of people who were big fans of Corbyn and now are going to reform, and they're sort of, I think their understanding or their I don't know, their reasoning or trying to deduce it is that there was this big alternative offered. There's no alternative to the system at the moment. And Farage peddles this idea that he is an alternative. He's a new thing. Even though he's not. He's part of the establishment, right? We know that. But yeah, I don't know. But that scares me a lot.
That doesn't make any sense. Like,
I got one word for you, Neil. Populism. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the key. Because that's what would make me, back in the day, support terrible people or good people. If they had that populist message of there's this elite that is trying to keep us all down. And that's what he does. And the left wing doesn't really have that. Our left wing over here is Starmer. That's not left wing. Left wing in America is Biden. That's not left wing. They don't have that populist message either. But the right wing people do. The far right wing people do. Farage does. That's what's appealing to some people. The people that could have been swayed by some of Corbyn's stuff. That's why I got into the Corbyn stuff in the beginning as well, because it appealed to my populist conspiracy belief system.
But surely the thing is, Corbyn's policies, or at least the, Magic Grandpa, blah, blah, blah. He was all inclusive and everyone's included.
Oh yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
yeah. I still think his policies were great, and I still think socialist left-wing policies are the way forward for us.
Well, what I was saying was but then Farage is very exclusatory in as much as blaming immigrants and general foreigners and Islam and stuff like that, which was sort of anathema to the conspiracy world. But even as I'm saying that loud, I'm thinking of at least 3 people on my timeline that used to be very, very left wing that now. Well, I'm not saying I'm far right, but I'm I hate immigrants and anybody who's not white.
Yeah, because it's awful because it's using the sort of malaise of we're just sick of politicians. I think that the number of working class politicians in the House of Commons is staggeringly low. I think it's 7%, but I don't know what it is. But they don't represent people. And Farage, I think Farage is lying. I think he's lying to you. If you're listening to this being nah, he speaks for the people. He fucking doesn't. He speaks for himself. He's trying to make money. He doesn't care about people, I don't think. But then when the response to Farage's hardline anti-immigration stuff is to then make videos of you tackling asylum seekers and taking people and trying to deport them and stuff, I think you need to... I think the current establishment, as in the government, are being we'll try and sort of be in the middle and get as much of the middle as we can. Whereas if they were no, go fuck yourself. This is obviously we need to work out an immigration policy. We need to work on immigration, but we need to do that. But this sort of rhetoric can go die in a hole. And because there's not that ballast against it, then these ideas just keep, and because it sells papers, then more and more people can be maybe there is something to this guy because he's the only one saying something different. And obviously the Green Party is saying something different, the Lib Dems are saying something different, but they just don't get the same airtime.
It's interesting. Have you been following what's been going on recently with Rupert Lowe and Elon Musk and that sort of stuff? Elon has said
the one nice thing is that they seem to be splintering a bit because these people they have such ego that it's they can't, they're fracturing and they only really can exist in opposition, I hope.
The slightly frightening thing that I've seen is in the comments and stuff like that, where some people are trying to say, look, the long and short of it is Farage has said, look, we can't just do mass deportation, so we've got to give at least the air of respectability. And the frightening thing that I see is in the comments on Twitter and stuff like that. It's no, that's not what we want. Send them all back, and it's just Christ, when Nigel Farage isn't racist enough for you, what the hell's going on?
But I think he's playing a clever game because him distancing himself from Tommy Robinson because he just knows that doesn't fly with people in the UK because we're too diverse a population and too like, I think we're too smart for the sort of Americanized shit. No, that's not fair. Cut that. We're not too smart. Saying Americans are stupid. I hate that. It's the most hack sort of thing.
Yeah.
We're actually quite clever. Shut up, Will. I disagree with myself there. But I think right-wing politics just doesn't play, hard right politics doesn't seem to play as mainstream. Like, if he were to go out and say and endorse Tommy Robinson, I think it would really damage his sort of the people who've defected from the Tories to vote Reform. I think they'd be like, oh, that's a bit much for me, actually.
Yeah, it is this fine line that they do play with the sort of the facade of respectability, and like, so you know what's going to happen. Like, it's interesting is that facade seems to have fallen, particularly in America at the minute. Like,
mental.
Crazy.
I don't understand. And is it just being further away from where the Holocaust happened? Is that all it is? That like I don't get it. Like, the idea of doing a fucking Nazi salute. It's like, I know it's preaching very much to the choir here, but like, are you joking?
Yeah. What really annoyed me about it was how mealy-mouthed a lot of people were. Like, people trying to defend him. Like, the people like Joe Rogan defended him, Piers Morgan defended him, all of GB News defended him, obviously. And it's like, it's crazy. There was essentially people on CNN were defending him, and then a reporter said to another one, "Says, well, could you just show us exactly what he did?" And can you believe that they refused to do it on air?
I think that's such a good way of airing that debate. They're like, well, we'll do it then. If it wasn't one, do it. Do exactly what he did. And then it's like, oh, no. And the response to that is like, well, I don't want it to be misinterpreted as one. Well, then, that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. It's crazy. But and speaking of crazy, just in general, like Elon Musk, the fucking hell.
I think when you have all that money and all that power and influence, I think you just are like, he's a little kid whose playground is our lives.
Yeah.
And he's just like, instead of pressing buttons on, like, you know, a fake car and driving it, he's just like, I'll endorse the AFD and see what happens, and see like how much influence I can have and how much I can change just by fucking around. Because like, he has no worlds left to conquer.
Obviously, we're all speculating and stuff like that. But do you think like his sort of like his leanings towards fascism? Do you think they are trolling? Do you think they're genuine? What do you reckon?
I don't know. He's big into like repopulating the earth, isn't he? He wants everyone to have babies, but he seems to refuse to actually engage in intercourse.
Have sex, yeah.
I don't know, and I don't care. I think
it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, it's
it doesn't matter. Like, oh, is the guy in the SS uniform really into the Nazis, or is he just messing with us? He's wearing the uniform, lads. That seems to be the most important thing.
Even Keith Moon couldn't get away with wearing an SS uniform. He got the shit kicked out of him, apparently. So, like, he wore it to a restaurant once.
Because we're talking about Elon, you were making lots of videos on Twitter and getting quite a good reach. Did you see like your reach go down, considering
I'm so glad someone's finally talking about this. I think that this is the biggest conspiracy theory, is that Elon Musk bought Twitter to fuck me over. I think that's what happened. I really like, I had like 55, 60,000 followers on Twitter, which wasn't huge, but I built it up over like 3 or 4 years. And I used to have lots of journalists follow me, and you know, incredible people like Joey Barton following me. So I had like, and that's how we first encountered each other, wasn't it, Brent? Like,
yeah.
And it died. After he took over, it started to go south, and then I paid for the Twitter premium thing for a couple of months just before Elon got really into the old. And it was when I was doing my Edinburgh show in August 2024, and I in the show I'd say I've recently started. In fact, I admitted to biting my toenails and eating them, and then I said that I've started to pay for Twitter, and people hated that more. And
well, I think they probably that shows an incredible degree of flexibility. I don't think
I'm a very flexible boy. Look, there we go.
That's astonishing.
I just licked my toe for anyone who's listening. I've been wearing those socks around the house all day, so I shouldn't have done that, but I was showing off. But it's funny how throughout the month that line went from a groan, like me paying for Twitter, to people genuinely being upset that I was paying for Twitter.
Really?
Yeah. It was funny. It was
wow.
It's fascinating, but it completely fucked me over. And like a lot of my pals who I met through Twitter on who do satire and stuff, it really, really changed it, because so many journalists and so many people left, and so many people who like in my demographic of people who would like my stuff left, and also the like nasty comments got more. And now, like, as a cis white dude, I don't receive very many at all, but it definitely increased, and now I just don't bother, man. And it's really to be quite boring about it. It was like, oh, that was my sort of USP and my niche, and that disappeared. And now I'm like trying to do it on Instagram, but the growth is just so much slower. I think because everybody's left. And it really affected things.
You perfectly brought me onto the second part of my question, and that was how like the hate and the trolls on Twitter. Like, obviously, I get a lot of our followers are out there who also try and combat disinformation, and they get hate all day. Like, how do you deal with the trolls? And more importantly, on a mental health kind of level, how do you deal with constant abuse?
I don't think I get constant abuse. So that's the first thing. I just don't. And that's very lucky and privileged. Yeah. This is a call to arms. If everyone who listens could start, downvoting everything that I do. No, I don't. And I would get comments. I think, existing in the circles of like conspiracy theorists and stuff, and I've only tended to get stuff when I go after people like Andrew Tate or Russell Brand, and mostly they just tell me to get a hair transplant, which is hilarious. So I'm like,
sorry, say that again. The followers of Andrew Tate say what?
They're like, because I have like, a receding hairline, and I've taken my hat off, so I think it looks slightly more pronounced here. But like, it's an amazing. It's sort of they seem to be for gender affirming surgery. It's very nice.
Absolutely,
they're like, this guy needs to look more like the man he really is. And Jordan Peterson and stuff. When I make fun of him, I think they associate it with. I was just making fun. You pick something to make fun of someone's looks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I have no other flaws, but I'm a pretty good looking guy, folks. Don't Google me. And so, I don't really get that much hate. And I think that is definitely due to the fact that I'm in the bracket of white, cis, straight guy. Like, it just makes it easier. If you're a woman on the internet and you post anything, someone will be there to say you're ugly, you should die, or you're hot and you should die. And any sort of a marginalized demographic is way worse. And I think I have had hate online, and the truth is it's scary and horrible. And I think if you ever experience that, you've got to acknowledge that it's scary and horrible. Nish Kumar has a really great stand-up special, which I can't quite remember the name of. I'll remember it by the end of this. But it's all about when he did the Lord Taverner's charity ball and got bread rolls thrown at him, and then got a load of death threats, and basically ended up getting diagnosed with PTSD because of it. And he does an amazing talk about it. But it was he makes the joke that he got a bread roll thrown at him and got PTSD. Obviously, that's not what happened. He got a load of death threats and believed there's death threats. So the act of believing the things that people say makes it scary and painful and difficult mental health wise. So you have to try and not believe them. You have to tell yourself that the people that are writing that are not people you value the opinion of in any way. So why give them any sort of weight? And just block and delete and turn comments off if you want to. Like, I think that's all fair. And I think you just got to be kind to yourself, because it's horrible. And I think I'm pretty good at separating myself from it. And depending on the subject matter, I now have bolstered myself to be like, this is quite funny. Like the Radio 4 thing deep state operative one, that has a bunch of people being like, why didn't you say anything about the BBC protecting pedos?
You'll always get that.
And
Like,
people will be like, you're a shill, you're a paid shill. And so I often just don't, if you don't feed that stuff, and you also just don't read them. So that's, I think also you have to try and think of social media as a tool to use rather than for you to be used by. But I think fundamentally it's hard and it's scary and it's not nice. But if you wade around in these waters, it's just going to happen, isn't it? Like if you're kicking the Russell Brand hornet's nest, you're going to get bitten by some people who are like, he's just telling the truth.
Worse things have happened to people around Russell Brand. So,
Exactly. So a little comment telling me to get a hair transplant is sort of fine, actually.
As a comedian, do you not get the temptation to treat all of this as like heckles and try and like respond?
Big time. Often I'll screenshot them and then make a comment about them elsewhere. But I don't want to give them air.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like,
I want to use it for my own gain.
The worst thing you can do to somebody that's insulting you or trying to troll you online is just block them, because that just cuts their oxygen off.
Yeah.
Like they'll then rant and rave and say, "Oh, see, I won." But you haven't won. You've essentially taken away their fun.
Yeah. The guy that I miss most on Twitter is a guy called Patrick, who followed me because he thinks I am Simon Sebag-Montefiore. Now, Simon Sebag-Montefiore is a historian, a writer. He's 53, 54. He's a very successful, very well-known BBC presenter. He's very distantly related to me.
Yeah.
But this guy, Patrick, commented on one of my videos that I did where I pretended to be one of those horses that ran through London. So I poured ketchup all over myself and pretended to be a horse. And he commented saying, "Not funny, mate, stick to the day job." And I replied being like, "This is my day job." And then I went on his profile and found out he followed me. So I was like, "Why are you even following me, Patrick?" And he was like, "I started following you when you wrote a book about Helen of Troy or whatever." And he just listed all of Simon Sebag-Montefiore's accolades and was like, "I came to see you do this talk and you were great at that. Stand-up comedy clearly isn't your thing." And every so often, he still will comment on Twitter being like, "That you've changed, man." And I think it's so funny that he thinks Simon Sebag-Montefiore has pivoted from writing an autobiography of humanity to then just doing, a day in the life of a deep state operative.
Marvelous. I once got pestered for quite a long time by somebody who got in touch with me, like shouting at me, berating me about how crap my Paul McCartney is Dead material was. And I was like, I've never spoken about Paul McCartney. I don't know what the fucking hell. I think he got me confused with some other white English guy, and that was it. And it was like,
you think you were Ringo Starr?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, he might have done. Like, yeah,
going around doing you.
That happens quite a lot. But hey ho, what do you got? What you got in the pipeline comedy wise? Well,
nothing.
No,
absolutely.
You do Edinburgh again?
No, I'm not doing Edinburgh this year. It's changed a lot as a festival, and it's like, it's an amazing place and I love it. It's very expensive and I had a really great time in 2024, but I just was like, it didn't feel right to do it again this time. It's also my first year as being a married boy, and so we need to do a honeymoon and we haven't done yet. So I think we're just going to enjoy being first year of being married. So yeah, not doing Edinburgh this year. I'm doing a couple of gigs and that's about it. It's a really weird time for the industry. It's like, there's no jobs. You got to make your own work, but you just made all this work on Twitter and now Twitter's dead. So better move to another social media owned by a different billionaire and hope to God they don't turn out to be a Nazi as well.
Yeah.
Or you've gone to Instagram, so that's Meta.
I know, it's not great, is it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Blue Sky is just populated with dweebs. And I'm one of them. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I'm such a little dweeb, but some of the comments you get on there, like I went to Lille the other day. I took a picture of a hotel that was called Hotel Coq Hardy. And I said, "Oh, didn't realize your mum had a hotel." Classic comedy stuff. And someone replied, went, "No, your mum." What is that? What's that?
Your mum.
My big question, because it was Blue Sky, did you put alt text in? And if you didn't, did someone have a go at you for it?
No, I didn't, and they didn't, and that's a first. That is an absolute first.
Yeah. Happens to me So you get the picture, you post a picture, and you're supposed to put a description in of the picture to, I don't
More
know, help
accessible
people
for
who
people, yeah.
can't see in low light or something. And anytime I post a picture, sometimes I can't think of the alt text for it, so I just post it. And every time I do that, someone comes on, has a go at me, or they have a go at me for having like AI cartoons for our artwork.
Oh, yeah, because AI is like, look, I don't mean to be cruel or something like, but what's the point of saying that this picture is red to describe it to a blind person? They don't know what fucking red is. I don't. I'm not being horrible, right? But I think that's maybe being a little bit oversensitive. But hey ho, it is what it is. Are you going to continue the week in shit? I think that was really good. The news is shit.
I
Sorry.
really wanted to. I actually, this is so boring, but because I went to France, I didn't realize how quick the Eurostar is, guys. It's so fast. And my plan was to film, because I've been doing this, trying to do a weekly The News is Shit, where I do the news from the toilet. So I was going to film it in the toilet of the Eurostar, but my light broke. And then I was going to do it whilst I was in the hotel in France. Then they got an audition for an Andrex commercial, which was about poo. So I was like, well, I have to do that. So I just ran out of time. It's hard to do things weekly, especially when I'm responding to things as they go. But I will endeavor to do more The News is Shit with me on a toilet.
Yeah. I think that's a great series idea.
It'd be funny if I only did one, though. Wouldn't that be funny? Because I called it episode 1, and that was on a Friday.
Well, this the weighing up, isn't it? Like, it would be a shame, but on the other hand, it does make it quite special, like the Lars album, because it's just the one-off.
It's there. You never see it. It's also like, I think it looks great, and I had a lot of fun making it. I think it's great, but there is something quite humbling about dragging an extension cord into your toilet and saying to your wife, I'm just going to go do the thing. Also, my toilet seat is actually broken, so it had fallen off for the thing. And you're just sitting there with a light filming yourself. And then also, whilst I was doing it, because I was sitting on the toilet, I did a huge fart whilst I was doing the thing. And then I was like, because I swear in it, I was like, I'll bleep out the swearing with that fart. I'll take that sound. And I did it, and it was so disgusting that I couldn't bring myself to put it in.
Do you like film and edit like all your own stuff, or do you have anyone else edit?
Yeah.
Or?
No, it's all on my own, and it is a weird part of a world like the acting and comedy world that pre-pandemic was so social, going out to do stuff, and obviously gigs are still social, but like so much time is spent on your own, looking at your own face, writing your own thing, editing it. So I do the whole thing myself, and I just spend so long putting the captions on, because I hate when you read the joke before the joke is said. I hate that so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do it all myself. And let me tell you, I love talking about making the videos, but no one else finds it interesting.
Well, I do.
Amazing. Thanks, Brent.
We obviously have to make content for the podcast as well. And I have to, instead of looking at us, I have to listen to our voices all the time. And captions, all that. So so that's a question for me. Fuck them.
Have you noticed any like verbal tics that you have that really annoy you, or like when you're like, that winds me up when I?
No, I just take very long gaps between what I'm saying.
On the other hand, that does, that ups our revenue on Spotify if we can drag out enough. So, method to the
silver
madness.
lining.
You get mid-roll ads in the middle of a sentence, Brent has said.
Yeah, possibly. But do we have all our ads taken off for being too sweary? So,
the new stuff that we do, I think because we say the word twats within the first 20 seconds,
it's the title.
Off the advertising.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. It's either that or it's the Vatican not wanting the truth to get out. It's one of the two.
I think it's ripe time. I think they should make Dope Sick, the show. I think they should make a show called
I Hate God album. It's called Dope Sick.
They should make it's a show that was all about fentanyl, or was it?
Oh, right, and the
No,
Sackler
it was
family.
about
The other one.
Opioids and that.
opioids. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sackler. Is it the Sackler family that
Yeah, something like that. This is not worth the setup needed, but I want to make a show called Pope Sick. I think that'd be great. Just now that when the Pope's not very well, I think that would sell a lot of numbers. You know,
sort of a sickly yellow smoke comes out of the furnaces.
yeah, exactly.
That'd be all right. Yeah. And he just sneezes over the balcony at
He's
everybody.
smoking nicotine to try and cure his
Absolutely.
illness. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. But brilliant. I'm very conscious that we've had you for an hour and a half, Will. And,
God, that's
well, time flies when you're having fun, and it has been an absolute pleasure. But is there anything that you want to promote or let people know about?
Yeah, I guess if you want to listen to another podcast that's too long, you can listen to my podcast, Legitimate Likes, which is like,
good.
Have you listened to it?
Oh yeah, I've listened to it a few. I love the fact that you just pick the most random topics like Willy Wonka or Home Alone, and then just shoot the shit about that for like an hour. It's like it's ace. Like I really like it.
It was started by the producer, my co-host Hugh and producer Michael. Were like, we'll get people on to talk about things that they're that they like and work out whether they're legitimate likes. But it quickly descended into just getting people on to talk about something that they don't usually get to talk about. And so yeah, we have done everything from like the concept of friendship to we've done an episode on conspiracy theories actually.
Mm. I've not heard that one.
Yeah, we said they were not a legitimate like. They're not good.
Oh.
So it's kind of like a Room 101 sort of thing. Like if we don't like the thing, it gets removed from the world. But yeah, I think it's a fun podcast. Our first season was 160 episodes long, and our second one was 7 episodes long. Because we started releasing weekly, and then we were like, we should do seasons about 3 years in. But yeah, we've had some great guests. We've had some really good comedians on. We've had Max Fosh, the YouTuber. We've had Suze Kempner, the comedian.
Oh, we know Suze, yeah.
We've had, that list has ended quicker than I thought, but I've forgotten everyone who's come on. So,
but yeah, no, can very much recommend it. It's excellent.
Thanks, Neil.
No worries. And have you? Did you say you got?
That's coming from Neil, who only listens to one other podcast.
This is true.
What's the one other podcast?
Knowledge Fight. I've started listening to Behind the Bastards as well. I can't cope with like more than one thing going on. Like it's to me, I know this isn't normal, but listening to 2 different podcasts to me is like reading 2 books at the same time. I'm like, what the bloody hell's going on? Like, I'm getting confused within the 2.
I could not do that. People who do that are completely anathema to me. That is unbelievable. Yeah. 2 books.
Saying that, but I've got 3 books on the go at the minute.
What on earth?
What are you saying?
What?
I'm an unusual man. Like,
the most insane thing that's ever happened. You just said you can't listen to 2 podcasts, which is so much easier to separate. Yeah. And then you said it's like people who read 2 books, and then said you're reading 3, as if beyond 2 is fine.
I felt it falling apart even as I was saying it. Like,
I would have kept that. I would have kept that last fact in my head personally. What are the 3 books that you're reading?
Baba Yar, Blood Meridian, and Women by Charles Bukowski. So, yeah.
How far into them are you?
I'm about halfway through all of them. Stupid. I know. And I've got to pick up that one about Blitzed. I need to pick that one up again. I'm halfway through Blitz, so technically 4. Although I was reading that like ages ago. So
I think you should just keep picking up more books and never finish them. Like the amount you get through it minimizes each time. So when do you read each one? Do you read one like
when it takes my fancy? Like,
okay. So you don't have like all 3 by the bed. Read a line, read a line, read a line.
No. In fact, they're all in different rooms. But like, you know,
you have one room.
So should I hold off on sending you the Germs book then?
Oh no, I'll start that. Like, yeah, lovely stuff. Like, yeah, cracking. And on
really
that bombshell.
Oh dear. Thanks very much for having me, guys. So that's the best ending to a podcast I've ever heard. See you later.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Tell everyone where to follow you, mate.
At WSebag, WSEBAG. On Instagram, on all of the apps. X, the everything app. And by everything, we mean Nazis and porn.